People who went too far to get revenge. If you've ever gotten revenge, I want to hear about it down in the comments. A long time ago, we're in Hollywood on a Friday night to go walking around. A car drives by and my friend gets hit on his thigh with an egg. 3 of us had just left his place, so he went back inside to change. Comes back out and we return to our mission. Hadn't gotten far before we saw the same car again. Saw eggs fly out of both sides. We decided to change our plans and went to a market and got a dozen eggs. My friend says, let's get some liver too. So we've got eggs and raw liver in my hand and we start walking some more. Shortly, we see the Firebird again, only this time they are turning onto Highland from Franklin and they get into the huge mess of cars that gets held up at the light at Hollywood Boulevard. I'm holding the paper bag from the market while my friend quickly opens the 2-pint containers of liver and pour it into the bag. Then we gently put the loose eggs on top. Ooh! In the meantime, the light at Hollywood has just turned red and the Firebird, really nice, shiny, newish, is the second or third car from the light. I start running. They are about 100 yards away. As I approach, I can see the walk signs are flashing. They're about to get the green light. All the windows are down. 5 teenagers, 3 girls and 2 boys with eggs in their hands. I get to them just before the light turns. I stick my head in the window, yell, "You like eggs?" and swing the bag across from right to left, hanging onto it so all the contents spray throughout the car. The driver leaps out to run around the back of the car so he can kill me without putting it in park. Firebird starts rolling and hits the car in front. Not too hard, but hard enough. The light's green, cars are honking, and we disappear into the night. Both of these stories, what an awful smell. Liver alone, liverwurst, terrible smell. Mixed with eggs, and how are you cleaning that? You gotta go pay and get that detailed. For sure. Not to mention you have an accident on your hand, and try explaining that to your insurance. So here's what happened. One time, my friend and I were egged, and it really hurt. I don't want to go into all the details because it's not that exciting of a story, but twice, and it was with the same friend. I think they were after us, but we got egged, left huge bruises on her legs, and then another time someone threw like a pop you get at McDonald's. They threw it on us and we got soaked while we were walking to a high school party. No idea who did it to this day. This was about 20 years ago. I was going through security at IAH whoa, what a tongue twister. IAH airport when this well-dressed woman in high heels cut in front of me. This was before pre-check when everyone had to take their shoes off. I said something like, "Hey." She looked back at me like I was scum, shrugged, and said she had a plane to catch. I replied, "Well, yeah, so does everyone in this line." To which she responded, "STFU, fat ass." She went through the machine ahead of me, but something she forgot to take out of her pocket beeped. So they told her she had to go back and put it in the bin. She then started berating and arguing with the TSA people, saying she's gonna miss her flight. She was super rude to this one 20-something woman agent who looked visibly upset. When I went through, her stuff was already out ahead of me, so I took her shoe. Just one. Walking away quickly, I was freaking out thinking, why the hell did I do that? There are cameras everywhere and I'm gonna get arrested. I had time before my flight, so I hopped on an airside train to another concourse and threw it out in the garbage. I had a carry-on with all my things, so I changed my shirt and put on a hat with my long hair tucked underneath. Mission impossible incognito. I thought if they were following me with cameras, I could fool them. And I did. That woman only had a small handbag, so I know she didn't have an extra pair with her. Of course, I never found out what happened to her, so my revenge wasn't as sweet as it could have been, but I laugh hysterically whenever I imagine what transpired. I imagine her first thought was it got stuck in the machine, and I do feel bad if it held up other people, but eventually she must have realized it was me. Lesson learned, asshole. I'm just thinking, it probably held up a lot of people. Because she might have even started blaming the TSA, and she probably was like, Well, it had to have gone somewhere. Like, where could it possibly be? That's so savage. Oh, I would never have the guts to do that. I truly wouldn't. Even if someone looked me in the eyes and called me a fat ass, I would not. I don't think I'd have that in me. Not to mention, I didn't think about the security aspect and the fact that you could get in a lot of trouble and possibly miss your flight. This was a teacher I had 8 years ago when I was in 8th grade. I'm 21 now. I was tormented all year by this English teacher. We'll call her Miss Quant, I'm gonna say, even though I think I know what you're doing there. Miss Quant really had it out for me, and I have tortured myself for a while trying to figure out why. And the best I could come up with is that I came out as trans in the 8th grade and started to present more masculine. I think she was just transphobic and kind of racist too. She called me names all year. The one that really sunk deep was when she called me fat. I mean, what? All of this is coming from a teacher? I was already dealing with binging, and this single-handedly triggered my bulimia. For some reason, the other teacher in the room and all of the students never said anything. The worst thing she did was, well, we had a writing assignment to talk about the hardest thing we've all ever been through. I was highly traumatized from getting SA'd a couple months back by another okay, whoa. I wrote about this kind of as a cry for help. I was gonna say, you probably wrote it hoping like, now's my chance to get my story out there and get some help. She held me back after class and told me she couldn't grade this because it was too graphic. She asked who the student was and I gave her the name. She said, "That's a girl, that doesn't even make sense," and laughed. I don't really remember the rest of what happened, but it was highly traumatizing. I'd say so. I haven't thought about her in a while, but I actually had a nightmare about her last week. She was bullying me all over again. I woke up and felt terrified, and then I felt effing angry. So angry. Yeah, you probably have some like PTSD in there. Anger I must have been holding back for years. I've always been angry at myself for never fighting back. I ended up looking her full name up online, and it turns out she is a principal now at another school. This made me angrier. This bitch deserved to lose her effing job years ago, and now she's a principal. Undeserved. I ended up finding her home address, oh God, which was scarily easily, literally just Googled name and address. It didn't take much scheming to know what I wanted to do. I scooped all of the poop out of my cat litter boxes, went to her home during the daytime, opened up the bag, and used gloves to grab all of the nuggets out. I then flattened, oh my God, ew. I then flattened the poo and smeared it all inside, on the bottom, the sides, and top. Wait, of what? Where did you smear it? I was very careful as I could be. I parked down the street and wore a hoodie and sweatpants and a regular face mask and sunglasses to conceal myself. Nobody was around. It was quick and easy. I have no regrets. I don't care if it somehow gets traced back to me and I get arrested. I've gotten justice. I know the point of the story isn't about where, but I'm just curious as to where. Was it the door frame, the mailbox? It's not, am I not reading that right? I don't know what it was, but a lot of the boys in my 6th grade class thought it was hilarious to try and trip people. Oh, I hated when kids did that. They'd get your ass no matter how careful you were. Well, I was pretty good at avoiding it, but when I was in gym class, this kid named Joey got my ass hard. I was dribbling down the court and he nailed me. I face planted hard, so I thought about how to get him, and I got him at lunch. He was holding a tray, so his hands weren't as useful. He nailed a table and lost a tooth. I got suspended for 10 days, and a strict no tripping policy was implemented, immediate suspensions if caught. Probably for the best, because that hurt. I hated when people did that. They would always do it where someone would go and kneel behind you and then they would just push you over that person. They were ruthless in the schoolyard at my school. Didn't care if you were a boy, girl, doesn't matter. My brother and I are 17 months apart, so we did everything together growing up. I'm older than him, but he's bigger than me. He's also the smartest of all of us siblings, but when we were young kids, a 1.5 year difference was huge in regards to how smart I was compared to my brother. I wasn't normally a mean brother, but if I wanted to get back at him for something, I could usually pull it off. For example, one time he slugged me while we were playing outside. He was bigger than me from the time he was a year and a half old and I was 3. As an adult, he's 6'3", I'm 5'11". So, to get back at him for hitting me, I realized that he wrote his name with a backward C in it. He was only 5 at the time, so not a huge deal, but I used that to my advantage by writing his name, including the backward C, in Sharpie on the washer and dryer. Oh, yes, it was mean. Oh, I'm not gonna lie, that's kind of smart. But I was only 6 or 7, so I was only thinking about how to get him back for hitting me, not that it was a jerk move from his older brother. By the time we were preteens, however, he was already caught up in how smart he was. He had a special talent for taking apart and fixing mechanical things. I had done something stupid to get him in trouble again, and he got tired of me always getting the upper hand in that way. He went digging through some of our dad's old stuff and he found an old fish tank air pump, the kind that pushes bubbles through tubing to aerate the water. He took it apart, did some modifications to it, and put it back together so that it looked normal from the outside. Okay, so he is a genius. Somehow, he made it so the pump didn't even make any sound when it was plugged in. He secretly plugged the pump in and asked me if I wanted to modify my bike so it had homemade pegs on the back to carry our friends around. I always wanted those on my bike. I said sure. We went to the garage and he got a hacksaw and some other tools and told me this grand story of how we were going to take a piece of metal, cut it in half, glue it together, and attach it to the bike. I've never been very mechanically inclined, so I didn't think to realize the metal would have to be a lot thicker to have that work as pegs. He sat down, put some gloves on so he could supposedly protect his hands as he bent and sawed the metal. Then he told me to hold the metal bar while he got things ready. The modification he'd made to the pump was that he connected the end of the wire to the part of the pump that took the electricity in. Is he about to electrocute you? Then he wrapped the wire around the end of the metal several times, making the electricity run through the metal bar. He did it fast enough that I wasn't paying attention to the fact that the metal had a wire wrapped around one end. When I grabbed the bar, it sent a jolt through my arm and down into my leg to a point that my leg started shaking. But because the current was so strong, I couldn't let go of the metal until he unplugged the pump. Okay, he tried to kill you. He let me go for a good 5 to 6 seconds, though it felt much longer to me. I'm actually surprised I didn't pee my pants. It was that strong. He didn't laugh or gloat or anything like that. He just said, next time you do something, it's going to be worse. And if you tell mom and dad about this and try to get me in trouble, it'll be a lot worse. That scared me much more than if he would have laughed and made fun of me. Of course, we were brothers, so we didn't get along 100% of the time, but I learned my lesson and stopped trying to get him in trouble for dumb things as much. Probably for the best. This does seem like a very typical sibling story. If you have siblings and you didn't always get along growing up, my sister chased me around the house with a hammer. Had she caught me, could have been a different story, but I was fast. I live in the suburban area at the end of a city, and there's one grocery store that is located at the ground floor of my building. I often forget to buy something from the city, so I started to buy my groceries at this store. The store is operated by its owner, Mark, who's the only employee of the store. The store is open till 10 p.m. and I am often the last customer. So Mark and I start chatting a lot. He tells me how hard he works, how small our revenues, and how hard his life is. I also tell him stories from my life, and we talk about sports, etc. I thought Mark was a friend of mine. For 6 months, I bought everything in Mark's store. I liked it. I liked products, chatting with Mark, and sometimes helping him with his PCs and systems. I am in system administration. One day, my boss called me early in the morning and asked if I could come to work early. We had some huge problems with the equipment and it looked like we would have a very busy day. I said, sure, but I need time to come. Boss told me that he is 10 minutes away from home so he could pick me up. I rushed on the street and saw Mark opening his store. I asked him for some sandwiches because I'll have no time for lunch. He said, okay, $20. I gave him money and he gave me 3 sandwiches. I have no idea where this is going. Later, when I got hungry, I wanted to eat them and saw that they were rotten. Literally rotten bread, ham, and vegetables. I felt sad, but okay. When I returned to my home, I visited Mark's store as usual, bought some groceries, and just told Mark about the sandwiches. I didn't insult him, didn't threaten him, just a friendly, as I thought, story so that Mark could improve. Mark got angry. He started yelling at me, started saying that I want him out of my business and that I have no proof, etc. Then he started insulting me and told me to go F myself. Well, I paid for groceries and went home. So the next day I met one senior lady who's very nice, likes to chat with everyone in the building, and very much likes gossip. I told her that Mark intentionally sells bad products to the residents of this building. I told her about sandwiches. I guarantee that she told this story to everyone who she met that day. Then I visited a sanitary inspection and left the claim about Mark's store. They raided his store in a few days, found some violations that cost Mark a couple of hundreds in fines and another thousands for removing violations. Now I visit Mark's store every time when I'm returning from shopping in a huge grocery chain with bags full of products and buy from Mark just one cheap candy. When I leave the store, I throw this candy into the garbage in front of Mark, and I know and see that my neighbors started to avoid Mark's store. I hope he is happy that he saved some money with those sandwiches. I feel bad for Mark's business, but also, you could have just said, so sorry about that, man. Thanks for letting me know. Happened not even an hour ago. Okay, so you just ran to the internet to share this? Parked at the mall with my son, waiting for the wife to return, buying new boots for the youngest. Up pulls a car parked right next to us with two young guys. The one closest to us opens the door a bit, closes it again, and then clearly opens it with force, slamming my car. He hadn't seen us sitting in the car. Immediately, I opened the door with a WTF, did you just hit my car? He responded with a yes, but nothing happened, and they left. I exited the car, and upon examination, he had clearly scraped my left front rim. Now he has a nice 2.5-inch scratch on his hood. Effer. Because I can't say the word, it'll get censored and bleeped anyways. I guess that is one way to quite literally get even. Before the next one, you know what time it is. I don't even have to say it. HS. It's hydration station. Let me know what's in your cup. Either way, it doesn't have to be water. It should be. Cheers. Matt. It's hydration station. You have to drink. I don't think he's gonna take a drink. He probably just rolled his eyes. I don't hear a sip.
I legitimately did.
You did? Wow, I whispered and I told them that I didn't think you did and that you rolled your eyes. Wow, he is approved in the Sassy Girls Club. I once had a new client not pay me. I opened my business 3 months prior and I was struggling. I needed the money and agreed to take payment on Friday as they needed to add me on the system. I had a small B&B and he had a contract in the area, dinner, bed and breakfast for a bunch of people for 6 days. And then they left in the middle of the night. Oh no. I tried getting the money from him for 6 months. This was just after my dad passed and I had to take care of my mom. It was also 2 months before my wedding. Oh my God. Bless your soul, that's so sad. The result was that I couldn't pay a few bills and I had to borrow money. It took me years to pay it off because we were struggling. The following 8 years, I would call him on a private number in the middle of the night. I set alarms and call him to wake him up, and when I'd wake up to pee, I'd call him until he disconnected the number. I registered his number and email on every spam, scam, and porn website I could find. I wrote bad reviews using his full name and business all over the internet until I heard it closed down. Commented that he's a thief on every Facebook image he uploaded until he made his profile private. When that happened, I would message his friends that he stole from me. I messaged every one of them. His business was in another city, and I Googled the area and called all of his neighbors and told them he sells drugs out of his shop. Oh my God. I'm pretty sure I've caused more damage than the money that he still owes me. Now my business is established and I make good money, but I will never forget the dude that kicked me when I was at my lowest point. Yeah, I mean, even if you were at your best point and he didn't pay, that's just really shitty to do, especially he owns another business. Like businessman to businessman. You're just not gonna pay? What a shitty thing to do. I had a roommate that stole my food. So my other two roommates and I made brownies with chocolate X-lax. That's cruel. I very clearly told her not to eat them. They were for something at school. Do not eat them. 4 of them disappeared the night she and our other roommate had a midterm. According to the other roommate, she was white as a sheet, barely made it through the exam, and didn't come back for the second half of class. I might have picked another night had I known, and maybe not used the whole box of X-Lax. Coming from someone who struggles with IBS, cruel revenge, especially when you're in public and you're at school. That's terrible. Oh my God, I'll never forget the worst exam I ever had in my life. This is not about IBS, so it won't be gross. I had not slept. I pulled an all-nighter, and my friend was like, oh, take this caffeine pill or whatever and it'll help you get through this exam. It took me out. It made me so dizzy. I've never taken any type of pill like that. It made me so dizzy. I was nauseous. I think you were supposed to take it with food, but I didn't. I just popped that sucker in before my exam. It was the worst experience of my life. I kept having to leave because I was going to like just dry heave in the toilet. It was terrible. I yelled at my friend after that. I was like, yo, what was that? A neighbor lady was mean to me. So I went into the laundry room after her and shit on her clothes in the washer. That's feral. That is inhumane. The washer. Just, you know what? We shouldn't picture that. I was gonna say, just picture that. Just take a second to really process what I just read, but maybe we shouldn't. Because I just got a nasty, the mixing. Oh, and then that's like embedded in your clothing, swooshed around, all in there. Oh, well, I guess don't be mean to this person. Had a roommate who basically let his new girlfriend move into our house in college. She helped herself to everything in the house, but never contributed. Finally, she parked in my parking spot, and that was my breaking point. I let all the air out of her tires, thinking she would just put air back in them and it would be an inconvenience. Instead, she ended up buying all new tires. Whoops, never came clean about it. Yeah, at that point, I feel like the damage has been done and it's probably best to just not say anything. Let her believe that the tires just, you know, there was a hole, a small leak somewhere. That sucks. But let me tell you, I'm not going on buying new tires unless it's been confirmed that I need to, because that shit's expensive. My friends and I used to pull a lot of pranks on each other growing up, and about 10 years ago, I was helping my buddy set up a new business. He was ordering business cards, and the company he was going through was offering, I think, 500 or so free with a large order. So we decided to prank our other friend. We made business cards with his name, phone number, and home address, and had his job title as professional creep with the slogan, if I'm creeping, you ain't sleeping. That could be the title of one of those true crime documentaries. Just saying. We passed these cards out all over town. He was getting really harassing phone calls for a while and couldn't figure out why. After about 2 years, he found one of the cards on a random fridge at a party and put 2 and 2 together. He was pissed and is still getting random calls 10 years later. I feel really bad about that one. Yeah, I think you should. That could really affect someone's life. Like, they could have difficulty finding a job. I'm hoping people would think and know, like, obviously this is a joke, right? Like, this was a prank. but I feel like that could do some serious damage. That's probably a little too far. When my ex-husband left me for another woman, I rubbed his pillowcases. I just can't believe someone typed this up for the internet. I rubbed his pillowcases on my booty hole before he picked up his stuff, and he got a terrible case of pink eye that lasted for 2 weeks and required antibiotics. I felt a small twinge of guilt, just a small twinge, nothing more. Lord have mercy, the things people share on the internet. But hey, I would genuinely not have a channel if they didn't, so thank you for your service. I hope I never have to write a story on the internet that has the word booty hole in it. Is it one word? I thought it was 2. So I work for a marketing agency. I've worked there since 1996. I'm 54 and worked my way from answering phones, admin assistant duties, etc. to being the operations director for 30 employees in 5 years. Damn. Good for you. We hired a young woman as a copywriter. She was fresh out of college and super competent and became a good friend to me. She even babysat my son a couple of times. Well, we needed an assistant coordinator and she recommended her friend who was working as a bartender at the time. She did have a bachelor's from a crap college. I can just say it's in Nevada. In journalism that she made sure everyone knew about. She and I quickly became friends. She was very friendly, but my gut instinct felt something was off. Always trust your gut. She was too nice. I can't explain it, but I never trusted her. Anyways, she worked for us for about a year, and about 9 months into her employment, she befriended 2 other girls, and they had a little group of 4 that they did everything together. The copywriter friend stopped speaking to me, and another girl that I was friends with did the same. They would just do things and make sure I knew that I wasn't invited. Okay, so mean girl behavior. I could tell so many stories of their antics, but this post is already too long. It bothered me, but I thought I was just being paranoid. Plus, didn't give a crap. I had plenty of friends in and outside of work. One day, one of the girls needed me to fix her Verizon? Pardon? I think I need some more coffee. One day, one of the girls needed me to fix her Verizon wireless card so she could use her laptop anywhere. This was 2008, remember? And because my name was on the account, I had to sit at her desk and go step by step with the Verizon operator. One of the steps was to restart the laptop. Once it loaded, her Skype automatically opened and her latest conversation appeared between her and the leader of the Mean Girls Club. I saw my boyfriend's name immediately. He has an unusual name in their chat and I couldn't help but read it. She was going off about me and detailing what I had done that entire day. I worked from home until 10 a.m. that morning, helping my boss transfer the ownership of the company. Highly confidential, but she said I had rolled in at 10 and that I did nothing all day and kept referring to me as Oprah. Apparently that was her code name for me. She was basically saying things like, oh, now Oprah's upstairs BSing with Gianne. She just Skyped, called Anders. She's now going to lunch with Blame. I was livid. It was like all the blood pooled into my head and I had to step outside to cool down. I immediately emailed my boss the whole story and he was furious. He emailed our 2 VPs and me announcing he was firing 3 of the girls tomorrow morning. The one who had the laptop and Verizon card issue was just kept on because she apologized to me crying, saying this girl bullied her into joining in on this activity. Plus, she was too valuable to let go and I agreed. Okay, but this is like high school shit. Well, the next morning I arrived at 8 a.m. and prepared all the exit paperwork and final checks to the 3 girls, and after their firing meetings, each of them had to come to my office and sign the agreement and get their final check from me. Oh, her crying face signing that document was the sweetest revenge I have ever experienced. She wrote me a long email apology with the subject like, "Mean Girls in the Office," that was loaded with backhanded compliments. I never replied. She still looks at my LinkedIn page as recently as 6 months ago. And yes, I'm still the OD at the company. Well, I think the sweetest part is that they actually had a reason to get fired if they were putting out like confidential information out there. Even if they weren't just being mean to you, their behavior would have got them fired eventually. Karma works in mysterious ways, you know? Stay classy out there, stay sassy, and I'll see you tomorrow.